what you're seeing is where the excavator hit it, right? I mean, so basically, like,
just broke it up.
it was intact. It was intact, and you have this giant machine that's coming down below home plate, and he just cracked it open. And he told me that the first thing that he pulled out of the ground was the plexiglass.
Yeah.
So he hit plexiglass, and he wasn't expecting to see plexiglass, and that's actually what made him go slower and kind of try to dig around it. And then he started getting more pieces of plexiglass, and then he got one of the big pieces, and he was like, this might be the thing that crazy guy was looking for. And I didn't tell this story in the episode, but it's pretty incredible that he found it at like 3 o'clock on a Friday afternoon, dug up the plexiglass, dug up a bunch of these pieces, and was like, yeah, I think this is what it is, but that's it for my day.
Time to
punch out. So he literally took it and he put it on a park bench. So this was all sitting that Saturday and Sunday for a whole weekend. Now it was within the construction zone, so it was fenced off, but it was just a bench that was sitting there. So anybody, and there was no security around it or anything. So anyone could have walked in
like a box. Like
no, it was just literally these pieces. Just he threw on a bench. So he was like, yeah, this is I think what that guy was looking for. I don't know. Time to punch out. So he then mentioned it to somebody at the office, and nobody really thought that much about it. The CEO of the company, it's a big construction company. They have sites all over the place. He hadn't been to the Boston site for a few months, he told me, and this was driving his daughter to Logan Airport that week, and he was like, yeah, I'm not that far from that Boston site where we're doing a lot of work. I think I'll kind of wander by and see what's going on. So he walked into the construction zone, was just checking around. It's a 25-acre site, and he said that there was something that sort of drew him to this one park bench. He wasn't quite sure what it was, and he walked over to the park bench, and the CEO of the company saw all this stuff sitting on the bench. He was like, that's that thing 6 months ago that crazy guy said he was looking for. And so he went and collected it all and brought it back to the office, and then on Monday morning they sent me the text message. But the likelihood of them digging in that one location, they were digging only 1.5 feet deep across the entire park, except for below home plate. Home plate, they had to go 3 feet deep because there was a piece of conduit, basically a pipe that they had to get to. But if they didn't have to get to that pipe below home plate, they would have never found it because they weren't digging deep enough. So it was of the 20-acre site, it was like 1 10 by 10 area that they were actually digging 3 feet deep.
So this could have been covered by 2 more feet of something.
Exactly, yeah.
So, all right,
Everybody's screwed here.
Your first moment, this guy contacts you and says, I think we have something that you're looking for.
Yeah.
Do you, sorry if everybody's recording, shit your pants? Or do you say, I need to get myself together and figure out what the next step is?
I literally dropped my lunch. I was in the lunchroom in my office just having lunch. I get this text message, and I can show you the text message where he says something like, I think we found what you were looking for. And yes, then the expletives came out. I was like, holy shit, yeah. So then and he said, it's in the office if you want to come get it.
Duh.
And so, so I called him up, and he was like, yeah, we're about an hour away, wherever their home office is in sort of central Massachusetts. So I jumped in an Uber, and I went out there, and it was sitting like this, just on a conference table, and I didn't know if he'd let me take it. He was like, yeah, you sent us the message, so, you guys found it, so go take it. And then after that, it was pretty much, because he hadn't dug up all the pieces. It had been like, maybe this piece, I'm forgetting which pieces.
How much time did it take to get all this uncovered?
It took, basically I went back in 24 hours. I talked to the CEO, and I was like, there's a lot more of it, and also the key. And I kind of walked him through the story, and he said, okay, I can probably rope it off for you for a couple days if you want to come back.
Okay.
So I think it was 2 mornings later that I came back at 6 a.m, and they put me in a construction hat and the top and everything, and I basically had brought along a little shovel, and I started digging for it, and a couple of the other construction guys started to help me out, which is why, if you remember, there were some pictures that sort of leaked in the community, and that was because it was basically a collective effort at that point between me and whoever else was just around the site who were like, hey, what's going on? And I'm like, yeah, we're looking, a little bit of treasure was dug up, and you want to help me dig for it? And they had better equipment, so we were all kind of piecing it together, and then I was sort of trying to figure out what to do, because we'd gotten there were just bits. So imagine like a 10-foot square area, and there were like bits and shards of it. and we were getting little pieces, but I was like, should really like try to capture this in some sort of more meaningful way. I didn't quite know what to do. I was like, I can just post it on the Facebook page. I can contact George, and I figured the next best person to contact was Josh Gates. And so I sent out an email. Like everyone, I've gotten a lot of people who've said, I've been trying to reach Josh Gates. I can't do it. And I did the exact same thing. I sent him an email actually the exact email they showed in the show, which had, basically pictures of what I'd found, and said, I think I've uncovered I know I've uncovered the Cask. And I sent it off to him, and I was sure like an hour later I was going to get a response from him like, dude, you found it. Nothing. So so then I contacted my brother. So I'm fortunate enough that my brother actually works in reality TV, which has nothing to do with this. He just happens to live in LA and work in reality TV, and he knows a lot of the people at a lot of those networks. So I said, hey, I told him the story, and I said, hey, can you see if you can get a hold of Discovery Channel, because I'd love them to, I don't know, chronicle it or do whatever. And so he did. He got in touch with the executive producer at Expedition Unknown. And then he called me back a few hours later and said, yeah, I told them what you found. I sent them some pictures. They're not interested. I was like, they're not interested. Oh, man. Like, he said maybe they'd be interested in coming to LA in a few months, or that when they're out in Boston, they can do like a web video sort of thing and post it on their site. I was like, oh, all right. So now what? And so I'm actually that night, this is like 3 days later, we've got shards of the Cask. There's still pieces of it in the ground. I go and sit down with my son. I'm putting him to bed. It's like 7, 8, 9 o'clock at night, and we're actually just talking about this, because this is like this big family thing that we've like uncovered this thing. It's a secret among us and a handful of people in a handful of people who are there on the construction site. I don't quite know what to do, and I'm sitting there with him, and the phone rings, and it's an LA number that I don't recognize, and I pick it up, and it's Josh Gates. And that's where I really shit my pants. And so he was like, hey man, I heard you found something. I was like, yeah. And I'm like, to my son, I'm like, it's Josh Gates. So and for me that was a big moment, because we'd found out about this entire thing from Expedition Unknown, and Josh Gates from the Boston area, somebody that I sort of looked up to, and so it was pretty amazing that he was there calling me, and he said he was in the Indian Ocean filming some other episode, and would it be okay if they flew 18 hours around the globe to chronicle us?
Yeah, he just like dropped everything, right?
Yeah, and so that's what he did.
No, it's not. No.
Right. Yeah, so that whole scene where he said some breaking news and the story of the secret, and where he's at an airport, he's actually at the airport in whatever country he's in, filming it, because they were going to try and film this like breaking news. So
3 days later.
It was like 3 days later that he got a crew, and he came out and he was the director of this, which I thought was pretty amazing. So he had a crew of maybe 3-4 people and a production assistant, and all the gear that needed to be used to shoot this in a high production way. But he was actually there directing all the shots and making sure that the sound was good, and that he got the aerial shots and all that. So then 3 days later he was on site. I think it was that weekend, and they put together an episode. They only had one more episode left to air that year, and that was the final episode in October, and they ended up bumping whatever was scheduled, because they planned this stuff months and months in advance. So they put this all together in a period of like 2 to 3 weeks, from the time that it was found in the beginning of October to the time it aired in the last week of October. 2-3 weeks, which is really fast for them. And then they also, about 4 days later, is when we went to New York to meet the family and all that. So it was just an extraordinary experience. And then dug up the rest of the pieces, and off we went. So yeah, thank you. So yeah, grateful for everyone coming. This is not at all a story about me. This is, and so I don't mean it to be. I mean, this was a story about sort of family exploration, and the community also, I think, really being a big inspiration for this. So thank you all for being an important part of the community. And I think if it wasn't for the community, it wouldn't have been something that I would have been inspired by and interested in. So thank you. I'm grateful for all of you coming from far away to kind of join me in celebrating this adventure. So I do really appreciate it. So on behalf of my kids and everyone else, thank you.